Good morning. We'll call this meeting to order. And today's commission meeting will be focused on the NRC's human capital and equal opportunity employment programs. As America is addressing its urgent need for electricity, nuclear energy is essential to our energy security, and it's a defining moment for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission because our work directly contributes to America's energy security as well as our national security. And the NRC is increasing its efforts to recruit, retain, and develop our people. And I do want to recognize the outstanding performance of the NRC staff, particularly the Office of the Chief Human Capital Office and the Office of Small Business and Civil Rights for the amazing work over the last year in the strategic workforce initiatives, including a major reorganization of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And I also do want to note, since we're talking about human capital, earlier this morning I presented a Length of Service Award to our Executive Director for Operations, Mike King, for 35 years of dedicated service to America.
I thought it was 25.
No, thank you, Mike, for your thing. It was 35. You got your Navy time and your service to the NRC. But before we get into the staff presentations, let me see if my fellow commissioners have any comments they'd like to make.
No, sir.
No, sir. Okay, I'll turn it over to the staff.
All right. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, colleagues that are joining us here today and online, and members of the public that are joining us. I'm Mike King, and it's my privilege to serve as the Executive Director for Operations at the NRC. So let me extend my thank you for joining us today for our Human Capital Equal Employment Opportunity Commission briefing as well. As the Chairman mentioned, we're at a pivotal moment in time for the NRC. With the passage of the ADVANCE Act and the signing of the Executive Order 14300, our agency has been called upon to enable the safe, secure, and efficient deployment of advanced nuclear reactors and technologies as a potential solution to meet the nation's rapidly growing energy needs. Central to our ability to rise to the occasion and meet the moment is our resilient, committed workforce, ever dedicated to the delivery of our mission with excellence. Our staff at all levels are contributing to significant reforms across the agency, making improvements to nearly every aspect of our operations and sharpening our safety focus. Together, we are writing the next chapter of the NRC as a bold, innovative, credible, responsive, and capable world leader in nuclear safety with the urgency America needs. A key piece of this reform is an impending reorganization to help ensure that our organizational structure, expertise, and leadership are aligned with the demands of a rapidly evolving nuclear landscape. This organizational modernization effort is designed to streamline decision-making, consolidate functions, and enhance alignment with our national priorities for the safe and efficient deployment of innovative nuclear technologies. It's more than just structural changes. It's about empowering our people, removing barriers to innovation, and fostering a culture that supports our mission and values. To provide clarity of expectations and accountability during this pivotal moment, agency leadership introduced a new strategic leadership and operational excellence framework. I introduced it during the Regulatory Information Conference about a month and a half ago, but I wanted to take a moment to mention it again now to help set the tone of today's briefing. You will hear more about it later in the briefing, but it is a critical part of our overall efforts in building a culture that is capable of sustaining high performance while also continuously improving. The framework's grounded in our principles of good regulation, independence, openness, efficiency, clarity, and reliability, and our agency values of integrity, service, openness, commitment, cooperation, excellence, and respect. It's designed to help embed accountability, continuous improvement, and strong leadership at every level, ensuring that our mission, especially safety and security, our North Star, remain at the heart of our actions, decisions, and culture. We will be rolling out additional guidance to the staff in the near future to align this framework with a collection of ideal behaviors we've identified to continue to deliver the mission with excellence. Today's briefing will showcase how our human capital and EEO programs are supporting our reforms and advancing the NRC's mission. We have an outstanding panel of leaders who will provide insights into their programs and how they're driving progress, strengthening accountability, and ensuring NRC's continued excellence. I want to thank all of our presenters and staff across the agency listening in for their dedication and leadership during this time of change. With that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to our Chief Human Capital Officer, Jennifer Golder, to provide her remarks to introduce today's panel.
Thanks,
Jennifer, next slide.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to brief you today on the state of the agency's human capital programs and the work of the Office of the Chief Human Capital Officer, OCHCO, the work we've accomplished and we're currently focused on since our last briefing in June last year. This has been one of the most challenging and transformative years the NRC has experienced in decades, and I'm excited to share with you what we faced, how we responded, and where we're headed. I also want to introduce our speakers. Following my presentation, Kirk Foggie will discuss the NRC Merit Hiring Plan. Scott Kelberg will follow with a presentation on leadership development, and Fantasacco will present on small business and civil rights and equal employment opportunity activities. Next slide, please. When we met last year, the agency had just begun shifting toward a more modern, data-driven, strategically aligned human capital posture. We were already moving in the same direction as the new administration toward accountability, transparency, and modernization. With the administration change, the pace accelerated dramatically. Next slide, please. In fiscal year 2025, we implemented 15 HR-related executive orders, executive actions, and OPM memoranda, and delivered 130 reports all on time. Many of these directives required new policies and processes, data collection, communication, and internal controls. None of it was plug and play, and every action required thoughtful interpretation, planning, coordination, and execution. This was the backdrop to a year that would test every aspect of our human capital infrastructure. Despite the challenges, our staff didn't pause. They adapted, they stepped up, and in many ways, they delivered more under tighter deadlines and more scrutiny than ever before. Simultaneously, we implemented the agency's return to office strategy. In partnership with our other mission support offices, the CIO, the CFO, and the Office of Administration. This included developing new policy as well as data files and scripts to support the telework bank, integrating telework agreements across systems, automating updates based on work schedules, hire dates, and agreement types, reviewing and adjudicating employee requests, and responding to employee questions. This was a major operational lift that touched nearly every employee in the agency. Then on October 1st, we entered a government shutdown. This hit at the time of the end-of-year analyses and reporting cycles and in the midst of system development activities. Core efforts came to a halt. We lost productivity during a period when we traditionally close out the year's most important data and metrics. Yet we still completed our year-end requirements and continued modernization work as soon as the agency reopened. Next slide, please. Shifting to highlights, a major transformation this year was the implementation of the agency's performance accountability framework. We developed guidance, communication tools, and training to help supervisors document expectations, monitor performance, and intervene early when necessary. More frequent check-ins are now becoming part of the culture. Supervisors are equipped to set clear expectations with their staff and to address gaps. For fiscal year 2026, following new requirements from the administration and guidance from the Office of Personnel Management regarding restoring accountability for career senior executives, NRC implemented changes to executive performance plans. Executives have 5 new core competencies and performance standards in alignment with OPM requirements. Further, executives have common core metrics and individual metrics specific to their own organizations. I'm also happy to share that we received recertification of our SES appraisal program last year. The general grade performance plans changed from a 5 to a 3-level scale. Branch chief standards align to executive standards. And further, quarterly progress reviews as opposed to one at mid-year are now required, also in alignment with OPM standards and requirements. The new standards and more frequent reviews will ensure meaningful engagement and feedback and a more efficient year-end review process. In June 2025, OPM directed agencies to ensure performance plans make clear distinctions among what is required to achieve performance at the various levels. This includes ending rating inflation. Specifically, a fully successful rating must reflect that the employee is achieving all expectations and is contributing in a meaningful way. For fiscal year 25 performance, OCHCO worked with supervisors to provide training and guidance on OPM's direction, and this resulted in meaningful distinctions in staff ratings across the agency. Next slide, please. In addition, we also proactively took the initiative to centralize the performance award process. Historically, each office managed its own performance awards budget and process, while like offices, for example, the technical program offices, attempted to align their award structure. A decentralized process created inconsistencies and inequities across the agency. For example, a GG-13 with an outstanding rating could receive a different award amount depending on which office she or he was in. Further, this also meant that each office had to administratively manage their own process, including developing their own award matrix. Beginning with fiscal year 2025, we centralized the administration of performance awards. The agency now has a fair, uniform, streamlined, and transparent structure and process that also reduces administrative burden. Employees at the same grade and rating will receive the same award amount regardless of what office they are in. We continue also improving our hiring processes by implementing OPM's merit hiring plan, revising vacancy templates, and simplifying the process for applicants and panels. You'll hear more about this from Kirk later in the meeting. He'll also discuss our efforts to recruit externally for critical positions, as well as how we're creating opportunities for NRC employees to compete for promotions as well as new positions. We also modernized our approach to position classification by reassessing the series we use for job postings. Instead of defaulting to technical series when they aren't required, we are opening opportunities to a broader range of NRC employees, including those in non-technical series. This increases career mobility and supports employee retention. Next slide, please. You'll also hear from Scott Kelberg about the overhaul of our leadership development programs. These changes strengthen our pipeline for supervisory, managerial, and executive positions, a key priority after the loss of so many senior leaders this year. We're committed to developing early career talent, and we are working to try to meet the OPM goal of 30% of external hires be early career, which is defined as up to the GG9 grade. Kirk will touch on the summer intern program, and Scott will provide an update on the Nuclear Regulatory Apprenticeship Network, NRAN. NRAN is now operating on an annual recruitment cycle with the launch of the 2026 cohort, our largest to date. This shift will ensure a consistent influx of new talent and help us proactively address future workforce needs. The enhancements demonstrate how NRC is investing in early career pipelines, which are critical for rebuilding institutional knowledge and preparing the next generation of experts. Through these efforts, we're laying a strong foundation for the agency's future leadership and technical excellence. Next slide, please. One of our most meaningful improvements in efficiency came from expanding test outs for technical courses and mandatory refresher training. Test out options are now available for 29 technical courses and all 8 mandatory refresher training courses. These randomized exams use the same validated question bank as our full course exams, ensuring that anyone who passes demonstrates subject competency. The new self-service test out feature expands the longstanding policy that allowed staff and supervisors to request equivalency exams for instructor-led courses. Nearly 7,000 refresher courses test outs were completed last year, and on average, a successful test out results in a time savings of half an hour. This reduces burden, increases flexibility, and maintains training quality. Next slide. 2 years ago, the state of NRC technical qualification programs was fragmented across the agency. We could not identify at a macro level who had completed any specific technical qualification program. Today, we have a standardized qualification framework that all qualification owners have agreed to. All records are consolidated, and over 80 programs are cataloged with cross-qualification capabilities. As qual owners continue to refine their programs, we are assessing collectively where we can eliminate overlaps and consolidate programs. Requirements shared across programs are completed once, not multiple times, and in the coming months, we'll have automated qualification tracking, reducing workload and errors. This is a transformation in readiness and efficiency. Next slide, please. Perhaps one of the most important accomplishments this year is our work to improve human capital data quality. FPPS, our federal personnel and payroll system, has no built-in validation, which creates opportunity for data errors. We address this vulnerability by building an interface through Nexus, the NRC Enterprise Execution and Utilization System, which is scheduled to deploy soon. As we briefed the Commission at our last meeting, Nexus is an application that will support the full life cycle of workforce management, from staffing plans and qual tracking to project execution and workload monitoring. The new interface will enable supervisors to initiate personnel actions in Nexus. Nexus will apply validation logic, and only after passing validation will the action be sent to FPPS. This improves accuracy, reduces rework, and increases confidence in our foundational workforce data. We're also developing a new human capital dashboard, which will give supervisors and executives self-service access to workforce metrics. This will reduce manual data calls and improve transparency. Lastly, we're partnering with OCIO and CFO on the transition to the new Core Human Capital Management System, also known as Core HCM 2.0. This initiative is being led by OPM across the federal government and aims to reform and streamline human capital activities into a centralized, cloud-based suite solution. Agencies will transition to one best-in-class commercial system that will serve as the federal government's single system of record for personnel management. As of April 16th, NRC is currently participating in OPM's preparation and readiness phase, and CIO is serving as the lead for the NRC Integrated Project Team. And we are in phase 2, which means we'll transition in FY27. Next slide, please. We're making progress with strategic workforce planning. With the upcoming Nexus deployment, supervisors will be able to see staff workload and capacity in real time. Staffing plans, including all positions, will be tied to the budget. Employee profiles will include their skills, certifications, qualifications, and specialties, and managers will be able to identify staff surpluses and shortages at a glance. Next slide, please. Let me start this topic of retention with a lens on attrition. From January 1st, 2025 to April 19th, 2026, a 16-month period, a total of 510 permanent employees, excluding the Office of Inspector General, separated from the agency. This slide that you're seeing on the screen shows all permanent and temporary losses, but I'll speak to the permanent losses. 67% retired, and the majority of the remaining resigned, with a few transferring to other agencies. The total permanent separations also included 112 employees who participated in the deferred resignation program. Many of the people who left over the last year were long-tenured staff with deep knowledge. To help mitigate the losses, we provided knowledge management toolkits to supervisors to help them quickly obtain information. In parallel, the agency saw a wave of senior leaders retire or leave for industry. Individuals who had not only decades of experience, but who had experience leading at the strategic level, navigating complex decisions, and collaborating seamlessly across the agency. Losing that leadership cohort created a knowledge vacuum that placed tremendous pressure on teams and supervisors. While we experienced high attrition, we did take steps to fill critical positions that were exempt from the hiring freeze. From the beginning of calendar year 2025 to April 19th, 2026, we have onboarded 59 permanent employees. As of April 27, 2026, we have an additional 56 permanent selectees and returnees who are going to be onboarding, and this includes the NRAN cohort. Since the hiring freeze was lifted for NRC by OPM in January of this year, we have posted a number of vacancies open externally, including notices for direct hire authority, and we are working to quickly fill those positions. Beyond hiring, given the significant losses we have experienced over the last 16 months, retention remains a key priority. We are addressing this through series flexibility, qualification streamlining, leadership development, pipeline program expansion, modernized work processes, and use of retention incentive tools. Next slide, please. The NRC is moving forward with one of the most significant structural transformations in its recent history, with full implementation scheduled for June 15th. This reorganization reflects both external mandates and internal recognition that our structure must evolve to support the future of nuclear regulation. While Executive Order 14300 required the agency to reorganize, we were already heading down this path. The work we initiated under the ADVANCE Act made clear that streamlining our structure, aligning responsibilities more directly with mission outcomes, and consolidating functions was essential for meeting the demands of a rapidly changing nuclear landscape. The reorganization formalizes and accelerates that direction. At its core, this structure is about enabling the NRC to make faster, more risk-informed decisions, improve efficiency, and reduce unnecessary layers of management, better align technical expertise with mission responsibilities, support emerging and advanced nuclear technologies, strengthen oversight of existing reactors while preparing for new designs, and simplify supervisory chains and increase accountability. These changes support national goals for timely licensing and adoption of innovative technologies while maintaining the rigor and independence that define our regulatory mission. OCHCO is partnering and collaborating with offices and regions via a rigorous and comprehensive change management plan to implement the reorganization with an effective date of June 15th. We're providing templates and guidance for forming new organizations and managing staff transitions. We're preparing personnel actions in advance to ensure swift staff placement on the effective date. And we're partnering with OCFO, OCIO, and admin to assure alignment of all follow-on mission support activities, including budget, IT, and space adjustments. While change of this magnitude is challenging, it also brings new opportunities for collaboration, career growth, and innovation across the agency. I am profoundly proud of the work our staff has accomplished over the last year, and I am confident that the foundation we have built will support the agency as it transitions into a more collaborative, efficient, and strategically aligned structure. And I'm now going to turn it over to Kirk Foggie. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to brief you today on the NRC's implementation of the Merit Hiring Plan and our efforts to manage workforce changes in alignment with the administration's priorities. Today, I'll walk you through some of the early challenges, how we're strengthening our hiring process, and how we're positioning the agency to meet current and future workforce needs. Next slide, please. As we began implementing the NRC's Merit Hiring Plan, we encountered several challenges that are important to acknowledge because they directly shaped our approach going forward. Early in the process, inconsistent and incomplete hiring data submissions created delays and required corrections, while differences in hiring requests were initiated across offices and introduced inefficiencies that slowed the overall process. In addition, communication gaps between hiring managers and HR specialists led to misaligned expectations, which further delayed hiring actions. These internal challenges were compounded by broader external constraints, including the hiring freeze and evolving policy direction under executive orders, which required the agency to be more targeted and deliberate in executing hiring actions. As part of this environment, each hiring action must clearly demonstrate with mission-critical needs and approved workforce plans, reinforcing the importance of precision and discipline in how we approach hiring. At the same time, hiring managers and HR specialists have to adjust to new roles and responsibilities, adopt updated expectations under the merit hiring framework, and consistently use new dashboards and tracking tools. Ensuring consistent adoption across the agency requires focused training and reinforcement. The operational impact was clear. Delays in hiring process, reduced transparency in hiring status, and increased workload pressure on staff, all of which underscored the need for a more standardized and data-driven approach. Next slide, please. In response, we implemented targeted improvements that are already strengthening hiring efficiency and transparency across the hiring process. We streamlined workflows by eliminating duplicative steps, automating portions of applicant screening, and standardizing evaluation criteria to ensure consistency and alignment with merit system principles. These actions directly supported administrative priorities to improve hiring speed while maintaining fairness and rigor. We are not only moving faster, we are moving smarter. We are also establishing end-to-end hiring dashboards to provide leadership with real-time visibility in hiring actions. These dashboards clearly show where each action is in process, track time to hire, and highlight bottlenecks requiring attention. The level of visibility enables faster decision-making, reduces the need for manual status inquiries, and strengthens accountability across the process. Next slide, please. In parallel, we clarified roles and responsibilities between hiring managers and HR specialists, ensuring clear ownership at each stage. This has reduced delays caused by handoff issues and improved coordination throughout the hiring lifecycle. The result is a more predictable and disciplined process. And our agency's average time to hire is now 53 days, demonstrating an effectiveness of our improved process. Next slide, please. An additional key enabler of these improvements will be our transition to the USA staffing platform. This transition modernizes the agency's hiring infrastructure and aligns NRC with government-wide practices. The platform provides a more user-friendly interface, enhances collaboration between HR specialists and hiring managers, and supports integrated data analysis and reporting. It also includes greater clarity of application status, timeliness, and feedback, including regular updates on hiring decisions as part of government-wide merit hiring plan goals. Improving candidate communication, which is increasingly critical in a competitive hiring environment. This is a foundational shift in how we are executing our hiring. In addition, we have adopted the 2-page federal resume requirement, which simplifies application review and allows hiring managers to more quickly identify qualified candidates, reducing review time while maintaining a strong focus on relevant skills and experience. Next slide, please. Beyond process improvements, we are expanding access to talent by leveraging hiring flexibilities and strengthening our recruitment pipelines. We are leveraging direct hiring authority, veteran hiring authorities, and other targeted tools to address critical workforce needs more efficiently and compete more effectively for talent. This year, we look to expand the direct hiring postings, including the Resident Inspector Development Program and 11 other technical roles. At the same time, we are building sustainable pipelines for the future. NRAN now operates annually to support early career hiring and establish a consistent development pathway. We are also exploring broader government initiatives such as the Tech Force program and have already selected 2 candidates through this effort, bringing in high-demand IT series talent where critical skill gaps persist. Additionally, our summer intern program remains a key pipeline. Over the past 2 years, 75 interns have converted to co-ops, 25 co-ops have been made permanent federal employees, enabling another way to bring talent into the agency and transitioning individuals into long-term roles. We are using multi-year data on intern conversions and career outcomes to refine recruitment and retention strategies, helping to better identify high-potential candidates, support development, and improve long-term retention. These investments are critical to rebuilding institutional knowledge and preparing the next generation of NRC expertise. In parallel, we are updating our management directives to align policy with these improvements. These updates modernize candidate assessment by expanding beyond category ranking, enabling a wider range of assessment methods and leveraging USA staffing and government-wide tools. They also increase flexibilities by allowing internal candidates to compete under the direct hire authority, removing unnecessary application requirements, and giving hiring managers greater discretion in interviews. Together, these changes reduce administrative burden, accelerate decisions, and reinforce a skill-based, merit-driven process. Taken together, these efforts ensure we are not only filling current vacancies, but building future-ready workforce. We are also strengthening candidate evaluation through a skills-based assessment under the merit hiring plan, ensuring selections are based on demonstrated competencies. And while we are not allowed to use government-wide share certificates due to being an accepted service agency, we are maximizing efficiency by sharing certificates internally across NRC organizations, reducing duplication and accelerating hiring decisions. Next slide, please. In addition to hiring improvements, the agency continues to actively manage workforce changes associated with organizational restructuring, evolving mission priorities. These changes require deliberate coordination to ensure resources remain aligned with mission-critical work. To support this, we are working to significantly enhance our workforce analytics and data capabilities. We look to provide leadership with more accurate, timely, and actionable staffing data, along with dashboards that support strategic decision-making. By integrating data with multiple systems and presenting it clearly, we enable leadership to identify workforce trends, assess risks, and make informed decisions. This reflects our broader effort to improve data collection and visualization to drive transparency and performance. Data is now central to how we manage the workforce. As mission priorities evolve, the capability is especially important. Workforce data will allow leadership to evaluate options, understand impacts, and make informed decisions aligned with agency priorities. We remain committed to strengthening our data capabilities, advancing efficiency and transparency, and continuing to modernize our hiring systems. Thank you, and I will now turn it over to Scott, who will discuss leadership development. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Kirk. Good morning to the chairman, the commissioners, fellow NRC staff, and members of the public. My name is Scott Kelberg, and I'm here today to speak with you about leadership development. Next slide, please. Leadership development can be described as the intentional process of improving a person's ability to lead others, make decisions, and guide organizations or teams effectively. It involves building skills like communication, emotional intelligence, strategic thinking, and adaptability, often through training, mentoring, real-world experience, and feedback. As staples of OCHCO's leadership development programs, NRC plans to prioritize senior executives actively leading other leaders and investing in NRC's most valuable resource, its people. Next slide, please. As Mike King referenced in his remarks, NRC's Strategic Leadership and Operational Excellence Framework provides the path for alignment of NRC leadership on what excellence looks like and provides NRC staff with the ability to execute with confidence. As previously mentioned by the chairman, high-performing organizations improve their performance and achieve results through a highly aligned leadership team that operates their core business consistently under a disciplined management model. The model was formed with insights from different perspectives, including those on leadership, accountability, and sustaining a high-performer organization from the Institute of Nuclear Power Operations. Since the recent rollout of this framework, OCHCO's leadership development team has committed to aligning programs and outcomes to the framework. The framework elements of developing talent and leaders and continuous learning and the objectives of strengthening and supporting the NRC workforce and sustaining a culture of accountability and continuous improvement are represented and supported by the OCHCO Leadership Development Programs. Next slide, please. OCHCO Leadership Development Programs support the spirit of the framework by cultivating aligned and consistent leadership behaviors as key components to sound programs and policy. The programs that I will highlight today include the Predictive Index Assessment Tool, Executive Leadership Seminars, the Office of Personnel Management Leadership Development Programs, and the Leaders Academy concept. In support of the being self-aware and self-correcting elements of the framework, OCHCO, in partnership with the Office of Small Business and Civil Rights, Office of the Chief Information Officer, and the Office of Administration, worked collaboratively to procure a software tool for access by all NRC employees to assess and better understand employee behaviors that reflect the unique ways NRC employees contribute to the team and organization. By understanding how these behaviors manifest day to day, NRC leaders can take steps to accommodate people's needs and to make organizational improvements, especially during this period of NRC reorganization. Another key component of the leadership development programs is the Executive Leadership Seminars. On September 25th of 2025, OCHCO sponsored a keynote presentation and executive seminar facilitation focused on accountability that was attended by 356 NRC supervisors and executives. The seminar sought to empower leadership teams by providing expert guidance to build, sustain, and enhance a high-performing culture that drives engagement, accountability, and long-term success. By delivering this executive seminar, OCHCO supported the development of mission-critical accountability skills for the benefit of a more effective current supervisory cadre, resulting in a more accountable workforce and a more confident and competent executive leadership cadre. OCHCO plans to explore future executive leadership seminar topics and weave them into the Leaders Academy curriculum, which I will speak to shortly. OCHCO stands ready to implement future seminar topics at the direction of NRC senior leaders. By announcing and staffing leadership development programs, such as the Office of Personnel Management's Performance Management for Supervisors Training, Senior Executive Development Program, and OPM's Leadership for an Efficient and Accountable Government Program, OCHCO is supporting the framework elements of continuous learning and develop talent and leaders by building a strong foundation for advancement to senior executive service roles and by inspiring action, sharpening leadership capabilities, fostering strategic thinking, and strengthening accountability. By completing OPM's Performance Management for Supervisors Training, NRC supervisors are more prepared to set clear expectations, deliver quality feedback, document fairly, reward excellence, and take timely action when needed, all while building an engaged, high-performing team through transparency, accountability, and collaboration. In fiscal year 2026, 97% of NRC supervisors completed the performance management training. In fiscal year 26, 57 high-performing GG14s, GG15s, and SES will participate in the SEDP program. This OPM program is a virtual learning opportunity to develop leaders across the government. OCHCO anticipates NRC SES leaders will be facilitating in-person SEDP group learning events so aspiring executives in grades 14 through 15 can learn from and alongside current NRC SES. This developmental opportunity is mandatory for NRC 70-plus SES and was announced as a competitive opportunity for GG14s and GG15s. There were 77 applicants interested in the SEDP. Although it sounds similar, the OPM Senior Executive Development Program differs from NRC's Senior Executive Service Candidate Development Program. Next slide, please. Future planning to meet the spirit of the framework is underway to have an NRC Leaders Academy. The Leaders Academy is being designed and developed around three major elements. 1, continuous learning. 2, developing leaders. And 3, SES facilitation. And will promote the Lead, Learn, and Engage tagline. The Academy concept supports the NRC's fiscal year 2026 through 2030 strategic plan goals and seeks to influence leadership behaviors to support organizational stability and continuity and enhance leadership credibility and culture, which is critical during periods of policy change, workforce shifts, and modernization. The Academy will promote learning and engagement activities among NRC executives and employees to share unique perspectives, experiences, and leadership insights with staff of all levels so many can benefit. The Academy concept reflects the continuous learning and continuous improvement elements of the framework by promoting SES-led learning group opportunities, such as a Nuke Talk, which is similar to a TED Talk format, and the Exchange, which matches up SES with groups of GG7s through GG15s, and which will afford learning and trust-building opportunities direct from SES, as well as with the executives leading and facilitating group learning events for an immediate blended learning experience. The Academy aims to develop leaders at all organizational levels, for aspiring leaders and current supervisors to SES candidates, to strengthen understanding of topics such as strategic leadership and risk-informed decision-making, and to align leadership and teams with the framework and with NRC's mission of public safety, security, and regulatory excellence, and to promote continuous learning. Having NRC SES act as facilitators through various platforms can make a significant impact on the next generation of NRC leaders and demonstrates leadership commitment and ownership of developing future NRC leaders. Other leadership programs under development include a future Senior Executive Service Candidate Development Program and a Leadership Potential Program. Next slide, please. As you know, since 2020, the NRAN program has been NRC's developmental initiative aimed at attracting, training, and retaining entry-level employees in STEM disciplines. The NRAN program aligns well with the developing talent element of the framework. The agency launched its inaugural NRAN cohort on June 22, 2020. Subsequent cohorts began on July 5, 2022, and July 1, 2024. Introduced in 2020, NRAN follows its predecessor program, the Nuclear Safety Professional Development Program. NRAN is currently managed within OCHCO and will be reassigned to the Office of Nuclear Regulatory Research by June 15th. The reassignment of the NRAN program from OCHCO to RES will provide the program benefit of direct integration within a technical office. Also being reassigned to RES from OCHCO will be the Technical Training Center staff and the Knowledge Management Team staff. Next slide, please. NRC selects the NRAN cohort of apprentices through a competitive application process typically posted in the fall. The NRAN program starts with a 3-month training period covering technical, organizational, and regulatory basics. Participants then complete 3 5-month apprenticeships for hands-on experience and exposure to the agency's mission direct work, developing diverse regulatory skills, competencies, and position experience under staff guidance. The program also offers mentoring, leadership development, cultural immersion, and experiential learning. By the end of the 18-month program, the apprentices are placed in areas throughout the agency that fill staffing gaps and satisfy the career goals of the individual. The first NRAN cohort in 2020 had 23 graduates, the second cohort in 2022 had 25 graduates, and the third cohort in 2024 had 23 graduates. The NRC will welcome 30 new apprentices for the 2026 cohort in July of this year. The increase to 30 apprentices will support NRC mission succession planning and staffing gaps. The recruitment for the 2027 NRAN cohort will include a USA Jobs posting in October 2026. Through the NRAN program, OCHCO has expanded upon NRC's investment by developing the next generation of regulators and leaders and has satisfied the requirements of the ADVANCE Act by programming for annual cohorts beginning in fiscal year 2026. Thank you. I would now like to turn the presentation over to Fanta.
Thank you, Scott. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, NRC colleagues, and members of the public. Today's briefing provides an overview of SPCR structure and the statutory responsibilities that guide our mission grounded in independence and accountability. SPCR supports the NRC's mission by advancing equal employment opportunities for employees and applicants, ensuring fair processing of discrimination complaints, maximizing small business participation, and enabling equal access to NRC-conducted and financially assisted programs and activities. SPCR enforces federal statutes and laws that prohibit discrimination and harassment in the workplace, as well as in NRC-conducted programs and activities, ensuring accountability, fairness, and public trust. We are organized in 2 main program areas, the Civil Rights Program, CR, and the Small Business Program, SB. CR consists of 2 subprograms which provide oversight for internal and external civil rights. This includes administering the Equal Employment Opportunity EEO complaint process, coordinating agency-wide affirmative employment compliance, and ensuring equal opportunity EL. SB operates under the Small Business Act to conduct compliance and engagement activities that expand economic opportunities for small businesses and domestic suppliers. Their responsibilities and profile have grown to include outreach to Congress, as well as collaboration with federal agencies and chambers of commerce. Next slide, please. SPCR plays an important role in agency transparency through high visibility reporting to Congress and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. CR consistently submit key reports, including the No Fear Act report, the MD 715, and the Age Discrimination Act report, all providing insight into agency culture, compliance, and oversight. We continue to advance barrier analysis, reinforce accountability through timely EEO policy statements, and support the agency's success in meeting Section 508 disability employment objectives, including achieving the EEOC's mandatory benchmark of ensuring 12% of the agency's workforce consists of individuals with disabilities. Through these actions, SPCR continues to reinforce transparency, accountability, and compliance while ensuring federal stakeholders maintain confidence in our civil rights and equal opportunity commitments. Next slide, please. SPCR proactively advances equal opportunity by leading the EEOC's on-site technical assistant review with support from partner offices to determine the agency's compliance with civil rights statutes and requirements, preparing responses to congressional investigation inquiry regarding the Civil Rights Program integrity, and implementing new requirements under the Creating Helpful Incentives to Produce Semiconductors Act, also known as the CHIPS and Science Act of 2022, while strengthening external civil rights compliance activities. Beyond compliance, SPCR plays a central role in policy development. This includes leading revision to NRC's regulations on non-discrimination in federally assisted programs and activities, specifically 10 CFR Parts 4 and 5, to align with the new executive orders and federal guidance. We also contribute to several broader federal initiatives, such as OMB's Statistical Policy Directive No. 15 Action Plan, which establishes standards for collecting and presenting race and ethnicity data, multiple GAO inquiries related to sexual harassment prevention in research institutions, government-wide initiatives, including the HBCU Plan, Office of Science and Technology Policy Anti-Harassment Guidelines, and Department of Justice Non-Discrimination Directives. SPCR is enhancing accessibility efforts by establishing a limited English proficiency translation contract and delivering translation services, ensuring mission-critical accessibility needs are met in accordance with EO 14224, dated March 1st, 2025. Together, these efforts ensure the NRC remains aligned with administration priorities and maintains strong compliance and credibility across the federal civil rights landscape. Next slide, please. In the area of EEO complaint processing, our team manages the full life cycle of EEO contacts, pre-complaints, also known as informal cases, and formal complaints. We provide detailed analysis of issues, basis, and participation in alternative dispute resolution ADR. Our team also tracks ADR techniques, outcomes, resolution rates, and closure trends to identify operational improvements and workforce needs. The following charts are more than numbers. They represent hours of communication and cooperation with staff, management, and our partner offices. Next slide, please. Here we show statistics across the full life cycle of our cases. What stands out is the increase in contacts, which reflects confidential conversations with employees seeking guidance or entering the EEO process. As you can see, 2025 contacts were double that of 2024. Our FY26 contacts may be lower than last year based on previous year's data, but keep in mind that we only have 6 months of data. Next slide, please. The first half of 2026 has shown to have far more complex cases than last year, meaning that cases are filed with multiple issues and bases. Of the 16 cases filed in FY25, the basis most frequently alleged was reprisal, and the most frequently alleged issue was harassment. So far in FY26, we are seeing similar trends. Reprisal remains at the top, as does harassment. Next slide, please. ADR remains a key tool in supporting open communication at NRC. ADR is more than just mediation. It includes facilitated discussions and counseling, all aimed at achieving efficient and constructive resolutions. Here, you can see the difference in case closures with and without ADR, as well as the types of ADR we engaged in during FY25. In FY26, it's a little early to draw any conclusions, as there are several cases in the ADR pipeline that will change the lower right graph. Our FY25 and FY26 numbers are in line with FY24, where ADR occurred in 68% of all closures. Next slide, please. On the upper left side of this slide are the numbers for informal complaint closures. 18% of the cases were withdrawn, and 82% of the cases resulted in notices of right to file a formal complaint. The more important figure here is the 18% withdrawal rate. While people withdraw for various reasons, a good number of them was due to our team successfully resolving the complainant's issue without the need of a settlement. The lower left shows the various closure types for formal complaints. The graphs on the right show where we are with case closures in FY26. Next slide, please. To improve efficiency, SPCR is maximizing the use of IntelliTrack ETK system through pre-populated case-specific templates that reduce administrative burden and improve accuracy. Our team is leading the federal workforce with these templates, and in partnership with the vendor, we will be featured as an example. We continue to modernize through single sign-on integration and automated data transfer solutions in partnership with our IT counterparts. These improvements allow staff to focus on the agency's most valuable asset, our people. Next slide, please. As we move forward, I would like to highlight some of the exciting work the NRC's SP program is doing to help push the boundaries of space exploration and innovation while strengthening the nuclear supply chain. Through SB, we've built mission-aligned partnerships that expand manufacturing opportunities for domestic small businesses. In collaboration with ASME, the Small Business Administration, and the Defense Logistics Agency, these initiatives help prepare new suppliers for certification and provide access to critical materials, strengthening the nuclear supply chain and enabling the safe, secure deployment of nuclear energy. The NRC is also leveraging the SB program to collaborate with NASA to tap into the advanced manufacturing capabilities and rigorous quality assurance practices of aerospace suppliers to expand opportunities and strengthen the nuclear supply chain. Our efforts have elevated the NRC's national visibility and led to our participation as a featured speaker at NASA's supply chains events last year, alongside NASA senior leadership and Atlantis Space Shuttle astronaut and members of Congress. Our involvement with NASA has evolved into a moonshot opportunity, supporting the Fission Surface Power Project and helping address supply chain challenges for NASA deploying a nuclear reactor on the moon by 2030. This partnership brings us full circle to the agency's origins under our first chairman, William Enders, a former NASA Apollo 8 astronaut. Next slide, please. In conclusion, SPCR remains committed to high-quality customer service by offering expert guidance on the EO process and promoting timely resolution of complaints. SPCR is enhancing compliance and program infrastructure by strengthening internal processes with greater emphasis on resolving issues earlier in the process, revitalizing EO training for managers, supervisors, and team leaders by introducing new efficiencies to ensure effectiveness and consistency, improving metrics, strengthening tracking tools, and updating external processing manuals to promote transparency, reliability, and alignment with regulatory requirements. We are expanding engagement across internal partners to reinforce accountability and ensure consistent implementation of civil rights responsibilities at all levels. We are increasing external engagement to support the adoption of new administration directives, share best practices, and strengthen relationships with federal oversight bodies. Finally, SPCR is positioning itself to drive strategic impact aligned with agency priorities. We look forward to seeing you at our December Commission briefing. Thank you. And now I will turn it back over to Mike.
Thanks, Fanta. And in closing, I'll just say, while the technical staff across the agency have been very busy over the past several months looking for ways to streamline our rules and regulations and our guidance, obviously our corporate mission support staff have been just as busy in critical areas, as you see here, such as human capital and EEO, which is positioning us well. I echo Jennifer's thoughts of optimism on where we stand today based on all their hard work. Although we have recently seen significant levels of attrition, as we've illustrated here, given that we've now gotten direction and we're proceeding along the path to implement our reorganization, I think we've lifted the veil of uncertainty, which is a major source of anxiety for staff across the agency. So that, combined with the tools that we've been given for retention and recruiting incentives, I think we're positioned well to be able to come out of the reorganization on a good, positive trajectory for the agency going forward. So with that, happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you, Mike, and thank you to all our presenters for a very informative presentation. So we'll move to commissioner questions, and we have Commissioner Kroll, who is participating remotely, and he's first in the queue for questions. Commissioner Kroll, are you ready?
You hear and see me all right?
Yes, we can. Great.
Okay, thank you. And thanks to everyone for the presentations today. Just a moment of levity. Mike, congrats on your 35 years. Many of us say that you were born to work at the NRC. Now I'm convinced you were born at the NRC. So congrats. That is quite an accomplishment. Stepping back and looking at the topic today, big picture, I recognize the improvement and I appreciate everyone's work there. I know that many of you have inherited some of these challenges that you're now trying to help overcome. So, the pointed questions you may get from me or my colleagues today, just know that it's all in an effort to help us arrive at the right place. I do have some concern, even in my short time on the commission, 3.5 years, we've been talking about a lot of this stuff, but it hadn't seemed to really change. I do think some legislation and the EO helped kick us into overdrive, but I wish that we had, managed our own destiny a little bit better earlier on. That being said, I'm hoping either Mike or Jennifer can give me a sense of looking ahead under the reorg scenario, what elements of the discussion today will move to research, so I have a better sense of where things will be living going forward in terms of the presentation today.
Commissioner Kroll, thank you for the question, and I can address that. So the entirety of the Technical Training Center in Chattanooga will be moving to the Office of Research. Also, the branch that supports the NRAN program is moving to research, as well as the two staff members who support the agency knowledge management program. So all of that is being moved to research. We've been working very closely with the Office of Research to make sure they understand the programs. And we're making we've posted some positions, notably at the TTC and for the NRAN program. And we are working hand in hand with research to fill those because we want those programs to flourish in research. And so we're working very closely to make sure there's a seamless transition.
Right.
And in fact, I'll just add that next week I'm traveling to the Technical Training Center with John Tappert and Bo Pham will be there together to introduce them to the technical training staff.
The leadership development effort, will those stay with OCHCO or will those move to research?
Yeah, the leadership development efforts will stay with Office of the Chief Human Capital Officer, as well as the management of the Professional Development Center, which is located here at headquarters, and the external training program will stay with the with my organization.
Okay, thank you. And probably have more questions on that at some point. A couple things, and I don't know if this is applicable for this context with OCHCO and admin folks we have here today, or research going forward. But looking at the presentation, the materials today, it's hard to understand in terms of trainings what is mandatory versus voluntary, what's a training versus a qualification versus a course, what are NRC programs versus government-wide programs, et cetera. Something that I'll probably be wanting to dig into a little bit more as the reorg unfolds and we get a better sense of our data. I know my colleagues are going to talk about strategic workforce planning today as well, and I'm not going to get into that, but that is we've been trying to do strategic workforce planning for a while now, and I'll just say, without looking for a response here, is that strategic workforce planning just has to be more than a data collection and dissemination effort. It really has to be a strategic effort that points to what we need, what we don't need, why, and how to address those gaps. And I hope we can get there. The 53 days current time to hire that's amazing. That's a huge improvement. I'd like to know more about what's behind that. But does it include both internal and external hires?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. The 53 days time to hire is only for external hires. That is incorporating with the hiring actions from start to finish, from step 1 through step 11, all the way up to acceptance of the position. I believe you only asked whether it was internal or external. Is there anything additional to your question?
That's helpful, and I appreciate that answer. I would have assumed that for current openings or postings that we have, that we would just post everything and make it open to anyone who qualifies. Are all of our hiring efforts right now being posted externally as well as internally? And why not? If is there a reason why we wouldn't post everything and cast the widest net possible?
Sure. Excuse me. Thank you for that question as well, Commissioner. So what we have done over the last couple of weeks is our postings are generic postings, and they're going external, but internal candidates can apply to those as well. And once we're done with that closing, we do have certs that show who are internal and who are external. So they're open to all candidates as long as they're qualified and they meet the minimum qualifications. Jennifer, is there, or
And I'll just add, recently we also posted a sort of a generic supervisory posting, one for more technical and one for non-technical. And of course, those are more targeted towards internal staff. And those postings just closed, and we had very positive numbers of staff indicating there's not surprisingly, a thirst for staff to be, step into these supervisory roles, which is great.
Thanks for that, Mike. Moving ahead, looking at quals and trainings and things like that, I hope there will be an assessment as well about what is duplicative with other offerings in the federal family. There was a mention during the presentation that the OPM SES development program is different from the NRC Senior Executive Service Candidate Development Program. I don't know what the difference between those two things are and why both need to exist, but it just strikes me as something that I hope we're not recreating the wheel where we don't need to. And I'm happy to have anyone address that.
Thank you for that question, sir. One of the differences between the OPM program and the SES Senior Development Candidate Development Program is that the OPM program is a virtual program, and the SES CDP will have more interaction. There's more of a cohort feel to it. So just to give you a sense for some of the initial differences between the two, one is an OPM program, and one would be sponsored and led and developed by NRC themselves.
I'll add on to that. The OPM program is, as Scott mentioned, virtual. It's also geared for current SES as well as people who are moving into SES or who aspire to be SES, but it does not provide the foundation for a person to become qualification review board qualified or certified by OPM. The NRC SES development program is based on the OPM standards because they have a very specific framework that we must get certification for. And that is typically a 9 to 12 month program. And at the end of the program, the candidates who complete the program receive the QRB qualification or certification. So then they can be non-competitively considered for SES positions anywhere. But the shorter OPM program that's virtual is a requirement for all SES, and they're very different. So they're not duplicative.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate that, and I understand I've just got under a minute here. I'm going to ask my last question, and whoever wants to field it can. But how does the NRAN program, the co-op program, I'm forgetting the name of our legal program. How do those efforts get integrated or factored into strategic workforce planning? Because obviously that's kind of where we're building our farm team, so to speak. If anyone could speak quickly to the nexus between those programs and our strategic workforce planning writ large.
Thank you for the question. So our strategic workforce planning effort in this agency or process helps us identify what we have, what our workload and workforce we have now and what our workload and workforce needs will be in the future, and also what the gaps are between now and in the future, and take into consideration retirement eligibility, attrition rates, and skill needs now and in the future. And so the NRAN, as well as the Honor Law grad program, they're for early career, so that we can spend time training them and bringing them up to speed and hopefully embedding them into the culture of the agency so that they can meet our long-term strategic workforce planning needs. So I would say those programs are ways that we address gaps or potential workload gaps and needs in the future.
Thank you, and I may look to discuss that more with you. I appreciate the time, Mr. Chairman, and turn it back to you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kroll. Commissioner Marzano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the presentations today. I'll echo and express my sincere appreciation for, specifically the OCHCO office. There was a lot of shifting direction at the beginning of last year. There was a lot of implementation. Add on top of that a reorg, and I think what we're doing on the strategic workforce planning side with the development of Nexus, I mean, it is all wonderful work. So I thank you for your leadership there. Thank you to the OCHCO team for everything that you've contributed to get us to this point. So I just want to make sure that that's very, very clear. I believe each of us in the commission unanimously agree that the agency's ability to successfully achieve the mission is predicated on the drive, dedication, and commitment of the individuals who make up the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. When faced with one of the most dynamic periods in the agency's history, the workforce has consistently demonstrated resilience, adaptability, and mission focus. Every day, I witness these outstanding contributions of our staff across all areas. And then, as highlighted in the Human Capital and EEO materials, the data reveals the challenges that we currently face, a reality that cannot be ignored. At a time when the volume of work has never been higher, we are also experiencing a significant decline in staff numbers, the lowest total workforce in well over a decade. This trend is untenable if we are going to achieve timely licensing and effective oversight, and I think we must correct this in short order. I think we're well on that path. I also want to ensure that our people are equipped for success, which includes fostering a healthy work-life balance to help retain and develop our talented staff. That said, I am encouraged that there is broad consensus from agency senior leadership in the Commission to our partners in Congress and the stakeholder community that acknowledge these realities in order to ensure that the NRC as a whole remains innovative, proactive, and well-prepared to respond to this new era of nuclear development. So real quick, just want to touch on part of this reorganization effort. I think what we're also undergoing as part of the ADVANCE Act is a cultural shift too. Understand, Mike, that there was plans to hold a culture leader retreat to have some alignment and understanding of, now that we have this reorganization in place, where we're going to go next. So I was just wondering if there's any plans to restart that effort and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks for asking the question, Commissioner. Yes, in fact, I have a meeting later this afternoon with the culture team to kind of talk about our planning for a culture retreat coming up. And as part of the overall effort on rolling out a strategic leadership and organizational excellence framework, we plan to leverage the culture leaders and the associated culture reps in each office to provide valuable boots on the ground feedback on how we're doing. Are we moving the needle in the desired culture direction? And so, but the first step in that is to make sure that we've aligned on what are the desired ideal culture we want to achieve, what is the desired behaviors we want to achieve. And so before we have that first meeting, we wanted to make sure we align on that. And a couple of weeks ago, we had a bit of a false start where we had a meeting scheduled, but we regrouped and we're realigning to plan for the next meeting. But it is a very important part of this.
Yeah, I think it definitely is, especially, again, kind of considering the cultural shift and transition was a piece of the ADVANCE Act, a big piece. And the NRC already really has a very well-established, strong culture organized around our principles and values. So, yeah, I think it's a worthwhile effort to kind move forward here. Okay, so I'd like to move a little bit more to some questions about attrition. If it's possible to pull up the slide. Just looking at this chart, just real quick to orient myself, these are total FY numbers for 2024 and 2025. Calendar year.
Calendar year from January 1st to December 31st. And they also, and in hindsight, I would have had a footnote on here, so I apologize. That represents permanent and temporary losses.
Okay. Well, one, I appreciate, data is everything. And to Commissioner Kroll's point, what we do with that data and how we act on it, I think is the important part moving forward. And so I'd like to kind of, again, scrutinize a little bit the why behind some of these numbers. I'll note that we're already at 182 in calendar, and it's, the first quarter pretty much of calendar year 2026. So, I mean, that is a significant number. I appreciate that, a lot of actions have happened to give a little bit more uncertainty to where, we can stem this tide. That said, do you project this trend to continue over the rest of the calendar year? What are you kind of seeing in terms of, projections for full calendar year 26 attrition?
So first of all, I want to mention that the people that opted into the deferred resignation program in 2025, there were about 112, 113. The majority of them departed in calendar year 2026. So in the very beginning of January. So that number's a little low. That the reason we have so many in 2026 is because they all rolled off in calendar year 2026. They would have shown in 25. So I think we will have, I'm expecting a higher attrition rate in 2026 for the calendar year. It could be similar to 2025, but I do believe it's going to slope down after, especially I'm not expecting that there'll be another deferred resignation program that I'm aware of. Mike, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would expect, after the DRP wave is behind us, now that we've, as I mentioned, we're on a slope of providing certainty, really focused on retention and recruitment, I think we're on a good path. I wouldn't expect the retention numbers to go up, certainly.
Yeah, I think there's also the component that there was a hiring freeze, and so our ability to kind of net or address attrition directly through hiring was somewhat challenged. But now that we're getting into that push, do you find a point at which the imbalance between people separating and our ability to hire would warrant additional concern, and what kind of actions would be put in place at that point?
Well, a point that Commissioner Kroll made, I think, is a really good one, and this is key to our strategic leadership organizational excellence model, is we have to be self-aware, self-correcting. And so key to a lot of the improvements we're making is to make sure we have a more real-time pulse on how we're doing. So as we make these postings, if we aren't getting high-quality candidates responding and ability to respond to our postings, then we're going to adjust. And given that the Advance Act, Congress has given us some additional tools to be able to take some more positive action to increase the incentives to bring folks in. We also are applying additional incentives to retain the folks that are still on board, that have the talent we need to be able to do the mentoring and training of the new staff coming in. I think we've got the tools we need, but it is important for us to maintain a very close pulse on what's going on, especially with this new round of hiring we're doing.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. As far as what is driving the staff departures, what insights or information have you gathered about that?
Thanks for the question. I looked at the recent exit survey information, and the information shows that telework flexibilities, stress, pay are top issues or top reasons why people are choosing to leave. That's been consistent through 2025 and is still remaining.
Okay. Yeah, and I think it is. I would suggest or recommend that we kind of look at a little bit more within our own ability, our own existing retention strategies, our own authorities to kind of try and get at those drivers for departures. That said, we may be at kind of the limit of some of our authority here and requiring us to maybe engage more fulsomely with OPM, or maybe seek additional legislative authorities as well. Just in general for the panel, do you have a couple examples of where we may be at the limits and where we need to kind of be advocating for the workforce outside of the building?
Well, I'll just highlight, we have had to use increased amounts of retention incentives, and given that we have, some higher graded staff, we are finding ourselves bumping up against statutory pay limits, aggregate pay limits, and so that causes pay compression and limits our ability to have some of the retention effects that we would intend out of those tools. So there's an area there that potentially could provide some relief.
Okay. I think, Jennifer, we've also kind of talked about some of the other kind of series limitations and things like that. I don't have much time left, and I'll just give a shout out. A shout out to the Advanced Act, shout out for the NRAN program. It's pretty awesome that made it in there. And I'm a big proponent of NRAN. Would like to see it kind of continued success. One thing I'll leave the panel with right here is, I think the NSPDP was very successful about delivering some of the leaders that are now in place at the NRC. As a continuous learning culture that we're trying to establish here, what are things that worked in the past? One of the particular things for me is hands-on experience, and I'm a strong advocate that really helps develop our talent pool. So just continue to look for opportunities to kind of really improve or look to the past and what has worked, and maybe how that can improve the NRAN program moving forward. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Marzano. Commissioner Weaver.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for today's briefing. The NRC's important work in licensing, oversight, and safeguarding nuclear safety fundamentally relies on having the right people in the right positions at the right time. An efficient, merit-based hiring process is critical to our mission. We must be able to bring on highly qualified talent quickly to keep pace with expanding work on advanced reactors and other emerging technologies. I'm pleased to see that we're engaged in ongoing efforts to invest in our employees, from preparing future leaders with strong decision-making and strategic skills to continued encouragement of senior staff to share their knowledge with newer employees by embedding expectations for knowledge management and mentoring into senior staff performance plans. With that, I'll turn to a few questions. Just following up on Commissioner Marzano's question around separations. If we look into calendar year 2027, and I think this is for you, Jennifer, that's why I'm looking your way, but if you're not the right one, let me know. What's a normal attrition, right? Because some of these unique things will be gone. We'll have stability, I hope. What for an agency that's in the mid-2000s employees, what should we expect to see, given what you know about how many retirement eligibles we'll have?
Well, the best way to consider attrition is to look at the last several years. So if I look back at the last 20 years for this agency, our attrition has ranged between 5% to 11 or 12%. Generally, or on average, our attrition is around 7%. That's the most frequent rate percentage we've had. So I would expect that as we move into 2027 beyond, our attrition will go back to around 7. I would think it would be around 7 or 8%. There's only been 4 or 5 years in the last 20 years where our attrition was 10% or more. So I'd say between 5 and 9%, but 7% is the probably where we would want to be.
Thank you. So, Kirk, looking at how we're going to replace those people, so you said 53 days for the external, and I tried to blow up your slides. It was a little hard to see, hard to pull, and maybe that was the intent. I don't know. But what I think is important, I look at my experience of hiring in the private sector and think about the comparisons here. How do we do, from the time we start the interview process until we make an offer, right? Because when you interview someone and send them away and they don't hear from you, right, they're thinking not interested, okay. But when you come back with an offer promptly, I think it makes a big difference, particularly when we're dealing with a competitive hiring environment. So could you just kind of give me some feel for what that looks like for us?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Commissioner. So what in our hiring steps for time to hire, we actually have the times broken down for each step. And one of those steps is from the interview process to a selection to when an offer is made. And in between that time is once the selection is made to an offer being made is between 1 to 3 days. And so if you're as you're saying, you want to make sure that you are engaging with the applicant. So if you're engaged with them between 1 and 3 days, that's well within the time frame, whether it's public or private, to be in touch with that individual. It's when it lags on and gets into the weeks, if not months, because other things are going on. So because we've built out those time to hire steps, we know that next step for the initial offer is supposed to be within 1 to 3 days. So we are staying in compliance with that.
Great. And do we say anything to the folks who ultimately are not selected, or do they just know they're not selected because they never hear from us again?
So that's a part of it as well. And so I mentioned in my presentation that we've moved to a new platform called USA Staffing. So that's built into it as well. So once the candidate is selected, the system pushes out an auto-generated announcement to those non-selectees. Thank you for your.
All right. So there's something at least. Okay.
That is correct.
Thank you. So I should say, for transparency's sake, Scott and I were coaches for the Bethesda Chevy Chase football team together, and undefeated season. But I wanted to just say, I'm sorry, Scott, that you're not going to keep the NRAN, because Scott we had 35 young men in our charge, and Scott was a tremendous mentor to them. And hopefully whoever gets it in research will have that same spirit. The NRAN, obviously it's an important process. And a couple of questions. How are we selecting these folks? I mean, what is the process? Who's doing it? Okay.
I'll speak to that. So we post the vacancy competitively, and we have what we call a tiger team that includes supervisors from the different technical organizations. And Kirk, correct me if I get anything wrong. But we have a tiger team that conducts the interviews, and they make the recommendations for the selections. So they work together on panels to interview the candidates, and so the technical offices are directly involved.
Okay. And then how are we doing on looking at retention of the NRAN folks, like some of the earlier cadres, or maybe even looking back to NSPDP? I don't know how long the program is, but what's the data showing with respect to retention once they complete the program?
I'll have to get back. We'll have to follow up with that information. But Scott, if you have something to add, you can share, please.
Sure, nothing specific, Commissioner. Thank you for your question. But we do have that information, how NRAN's been around since 2020, so obviously there's less individuals that are still here. And I think the important part of attrition is that mentoring in the program so that they want to stay for as long as possible, and we really give them an enrichment program. But we do have that data. We did do an analysis of the predecessor program and NRAN in terms of how many people are still here, so we'll be able to provide that to you.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't so much the numbers as what did it tell you? I mean, what works, what maybe doesn't work for those folks? Any comments?
Sure. I think what really works is the experiential learning that we referred to, that the Commissioner mentioned, giving them that hands-on learning. They are required to go out to a region or a site at least one of their 3 rotations or their apprentices. And I think that experience really provides them with gives them the insight in terms of what do I really want to do with my future. And I think giving that enrichment program, giving them that hands-on experience, whether it's at a site, in a region, or here in headquarters, really provides them with a broad perspective of what they can expect and what do they want to do. Obviously, we want to fill needed gaps in staffing, so it's really agency first when it comes to NRAN, but then we also want to appreciate what are their goals, what do they want to do, and at the end of their 18-month program, they really have that sense, obviously more than when they started.
Thank you. Fanta. So I think I've had a misunderstanding about what the small business role is, maybe for forever, I don't know. What I thought it was helping small businesses get contracts from the NRC. In listening to your presentation, and particularly where you talk about space, it looks like it's more than that. Could you, could you tell me a little bit more?
I'll try, and maybe I'll call Tony if I need to. So yeah, we do help small business get contract. We also advise small businesses in how to deal with federal money. Recently, because of the supply chain issue, we started a new initiative called the Manufacturing Initiative, where we work with small businesses and understanding that not many have the capability of supplying nuclear parts. So we've been working with NASA and their suppliers. It seems like the gap between aerospace and nuclear is smaller. So we work with ASME and then some other organizations to help close the gap for those small businesses, so they can see, okay, I'm not that far from an ISO to an NQA1.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and this is a great example of how, the staff are really embracing this concept of enabling, in all aspects of how we do business. I mean, this is a very entrepreneurial effort, but it's squarely in line with the mission of small business. I think it's a great initiative helping with the nuclear supply chain.
Yeah.
And we were very instrumental in helping one of the suppliers for, I think it's Palisade Restart, right?
Oh.
There you go. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for that. And I think my time has expired. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Weaver. It's my turn. Hey, I want to say thank you all to the NRC staff and leadership. You have achieved incredible results over the last year. It is just amazing how much we've accomplished as an agency under extraordinary circumstances. As I mentioned at the outset, we are at a defining moment in the NRC's history. My appreciation also extends to the regional staff. They have consistently ensured that there are high levels of safety and security out in the operating fleet, as well as other materials users, as well as responding timely and promptly to any safety significant events. And I also want to extend my appreciation to the members of the commission. This commission, we're a part of the workforce, as are your teams as well, and I think we've accomplished an extraordinary amount of progress toward delivering to America what it needs from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and enabling the safe use of nuclear technologies. So I want to go to Jennifer first, and as Fanta, you mentioned, our workforce is the most important asset we have. I certainly agree with that. Our success in this moment really depends on our people. Every day, day in, day out, they deliver on a mission that's essential to public trust and nuclear safety. So kudos to your efforts in OCHCO for introducing a disciplined performance management system. I think that is certainly well needed. I agree with Commissioner Kroll. 53 days is amazing. I remember how long it used to take when I was an NRC staff member, so great job there. I think the commissioner's questions have focused a lot on the recruitment and retention, which is really important. I want to focus more a little bit on the people we have. So Jennifer, can you tell me about how we intend to develop our staff, whether we're going to use individual development plans for individual contributors or executive development plans for our leaders?
Thanks for that question, Chairman. So first of all senior executives are required to use executive development plans and to update them on an annual basis. And that requirement comes from OPM and as part of our annual or biannual certification that we receive from OPM. And so executives must have executive development plans. We also have templates and formats for staff to use individual development plans, which is something that we highly encourage. And in the Nexus application, there are talent profiles that are being, we're launching that shortly prior to the reorg being implemented on June 15th, where all employees will be encouraged to enter information regarding their specialties, their qualifications, their career history. It will have an opportunity for them to share what their goals are and what their career goals are.
Okay, thank you. And
Okay.
what I would say, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, there are mandatory elements associated with being a senior executive, but we want to go beyond that. We want to make it really practically, if we're going to expend effort developing a plan, we want it to be meaningful, deliver results, and really focus on the development needs of not just executive, but staff as well. And so hopefully by the end of the fiscal year, we want to take some of the efforts we're doing on the strategic leadership, organizational effectiveness model, and really going into the next fiscal year, develop EDP, executive development plans that are really impactful, that don't just check the box of OPM requirement, but also really deliver meaningful results.
It's uncanny. I was going to use the word meaningful, and in my experience at the NRC in the past, I don't think we've done a outstanding job in leveraging the power of an individual development plan or an executive development plan. So yes, please make it meaningful. Leaders have to embrace the concept, and the staff have to see the benefit in how they develop themselves. Hey, tell me about succession planning. That's another area I think it's been a gap for the agency in my experiences, and I've seen it done elsewhere and other experiences I've had outside the agency where, in combination with development plans, a robust and impactful succession planning process can really position the agency well. So tell us what you're planning there.
So this is also an area where we're evolving rapidly, and we're trying to not reinvent the wheel. We're benchmarking other entities. We've had a number of folks that we've reached out to compare how do you do succession planning and IMPO, as we've mentioned before. And so this is an area where we're ramping up our efforts into, and the plan is by the end of the fiscal year. We haven't done a detailed succession planning in the past 18 months or so because of our drawdown efforts and our focus on reorganization and reformation efforts. But by the end of the fiscal year, our plan is to ramp up those efforts and to be able to learn implement some of those best practices that we're getting from other externals to improve our process there.
That's great, and I really appreciate that, Mike. And again, I said this at the Reg Info conference. I give you and your leadership team a lot of credit for the alignment that you've created in the organization and the results that you've delivered, especially with the departures that we've had in the agency. It's very clear to me that we have a very strong workforce today. We're going to have one tomorrow through the efforts that you all have, and then we're going to grow the future even better. So I want to shift to the strategic leadership and operational excellence model. I love what you're doing there. Scott, I was listening to your presentation with great interest, particularly the part related to having leaders being engaged in developing others. In my experience, that's probably one of the most important things a leader can do, is to develop another leader. I think some of the challenges we faced as an agency, quite frankly, in our regulatory programs, are questions of leadership. And I think your efforts will help address that. And it's very clear to me that there's a new NRC, right? One that enables, one that operates with more discipline and efficiency, as well as a strong safety focus. I have a very intense interest in this management model that you're developing, because I think it is key for the sustainability of the agency in conjunction with a strong culture of continuous improvement. So Mike, I'll give it to you first here. What does success look like with this model?
Well, success looks like when long after we're gone, all of the energy and efforts we've got into transforming and shifting our culture, all that continues on 2 or 3 generations past us. That's what success looks like to me, because we've got tremendous momentum and we've made so much progress in all activities we've been doing across the agency, really focusing on what matters for safety, looking for ways to be smarter about how we do business, having that mindset continue on in a sustainable way is the end goal of implementing this. And that we adapt. We're able to adjust as an agency to changing conditions without somebody having to come in and tell us to do that, because we're self-aware and we're self-correcting. If the dynamics change, we need to be the first ones to identify that, and we need to be doing our own corrective actions to adjust the course so that we're ready for the future, no matter what hope brings us.
Thank you for that. And hey, my final question, I was reflecting back, before I returned back to the agency, I had an opportunity to be a site vice president, an operating nuclear reactor, part of a fleet. And, the team was very aligned with how the company did business. So I'm thinking about that in the context of our regional offices and the technical training center. Tell me your thinking about how this management model, this strategic leadership and operational excellence model is going to be driven into the regional operations and how we maintain that alignment across the agency.
Well, I think it starts from the top down. We set a clear vision, established really clear expectations. The strategic plan that's right now before the commission for approval identifies 3 strategic goals for the agency. Everything trickles down from there, including the mission above it. And so the organizational excellence and strategic leadership model takes those concepts, embeds it throughout the organization with mechanisms in place to ensure there's regular check-ins with senior leaders across the agency to ensure all of our expectations are in alignment and that we're monitoring not only the outcomes for the agency, but also the behaviors that resulted in those outcomes. We had a real strength for the agency for years. We monitor the outcomes, but the behavioral aspects and making that a part of our DNA of really monitoring our behaviors and what led to those outcomes is an area of opportunity for us as an agency.
Okay. Thank you for your efforts here, Mike. Okay, I'll yield back my time. Commissioner Wright.
Thank you, Chair. And each of the panelists, thank you so much for your preparation and your presentations today. They're very informative, lots of information. I want to thank my fellow commissioners for their questions, very insightful questions, lots of things that we need to try to figure out going forward. And we have a lot of people in the room today from OCHCO and from SBCR, and my question really to them is, who's answering the phones back in the office? You're all here. Seriously, though, to me, it's the fact that you are here supporting your leadership is impressive. It means a lot. It means that you care about what you do, you care about each other, and you support each other. And I hope that we see this in every business line that's out there, because it is impressive. We've gone through a very difficult year, as you know. And so I wanted to add my recognition and support for what you did for me last year and for my fellow commissioners, Kroll and Marzano, as we kind of maneuvered a lot of stuff during government shutdowns and everything else that we had to face, not just as an agency, but even some of us personally had to roll off and come back until we had Coach Weaver show back up here and Chairman Nee become a part of the team again and take over leadership, and we're moving forward even further. I've heard meet the moment today. I've heard we are in new NRC this morning. I've heard North Star. It sounds like you're copying my Rick speeches from the last 4 years. The only thing I didn't hear, and I'm going to say it is, you're proving that you got this. All right? So that does cover 4 years, does it not? I really do appreciate each of you for what you do. It's that type of camaraderie that we have within this agency that makes it so special. And it's an honor for me to be a part of this. I would have never thought in my life that I would get to this level of service, but here I am. And I'm very grateful to each one of you for how you support us. I'm going to ask just a couple of questions, right? Nexus. We had heard back earlier in the year that it was going to roll out maybe after the RIC. How close are we for it rolling out?
We're very close. So there were some delays And there was the scope broadened, definitely, over the last year. And we're going to be rolling it out incrementally in stages over the next several months. We're first focusing on on talent profiles, and then we're finishing up final development on the HR staffing side, and we'll finish testing and training, and then our vision is to roll that out later this summer. And then we'll also be working on the dashboards. So it's coming, and it's going to be fast, and we'll be doing more communication and training over the next several months.
Okay. I want to go to the 53 days to hire, because there's something I didn't hear that previously was something that we heard a lot about. And does this include background?
Background check?
Yes.
In the 53-day time to hire piece, no. So the 53 days stops after the initial offer. Once you get into the security piece and waiting for the applicant to provide data back, OPM has stated that that is not something that they want to track officially for the federal government. But we still track that internally.
Yeah, so what is that number?
Where are we for
Yeah, I mean, because what I'd heard before in previous meetings, if you're just trying to compare apples to apples, was 130 days?
130. We were at 130. That is correct.
Yeah. What are we
Prior to the
at
hiring
now?
freeze. So from end to end, getting somebody on board, we actually have it down to 100 days. And I know it was a little small if you were able to blow it up. We actually show the 53 days for the OPM time. Above that, we're actually showing what it is from initial to onboarding the individual, and we are at an average of 100 days.
Okay.
Specific to the background check, that's taking us around 10 days with the Office of Administration right now.
Okay, so it's an improvement.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, well, that's good. I just hadn't heard that. I wanted to just check on that.
Well, I also want to add that there was recognition at the OPM level and all the CHCOs, because we talk on a weekly basis, that we cannot, beyond making that offer and the person accepts, we cannot control
Right.
whether background or when the person decides they want to start. A lot of that is completely outside of any HR organization's control. But the merit hiring plan has really made a difference in helping us with the streamlined 2-page resumes and the fact that we don't need panels to do the interviews.
All right, thank you. Chad, I'm going to come back to you for the last question that I'm going to have today. So you spoke, and I want to say it was on page 40, the IntelliTrack program, ETK. You said that we were a model.
Yep.
Can you give me a little bit more meat on that bone?
Okay. So IntelliTrack is the complaint tracking system that most federal agencies use. We've made significant improvements to that system. People used to go and then put in information manually. That will go from staff, complainants, and contractors. But now we've created about 45 pre-populated templates that take information that's already stored in the system. We've also moved, so that reduces administrative burden, improves accuracy and consistency in how we collect information from staff. We've also made it available to contractors, and instead of spending so much time on paperwork, now they have more time to spend on the counselees that they're working with. So because of all those improvements that we've made, people have heard of us, and then we've been invited to a government-wide forum to talk about our progress and then the efficiencies that we've gained in making those changes. We were invited in June.
Good. I hope we're going to highlight that and some of the social media and stuff that we have. Yeah, it's a big thing. Okay, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Chair, that's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright. Well, that concludes a round of commissioner questions. Again, thank you all for the incredible work that you are doing for the agency, and thank you to the staff for their accomplishments. Amazing stuff over the last year. The things that you're doing now for our workforce, including the results that we have achieved for mission outcomes, again, are doing great things for the country. Next year is going to be about execution and sustainability, so the things you're doing now are going to really set us up for the future. Before we close out, let me ask any of my fellow commissioners have any closing comments? Happy Cinco de Mayo from Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Kroll, anything from you? No? Okay, end the meeting.